Welcome to the first official NumotTheNummy, TSM NumotTheNummy set review of War of the Spark. Again, we're just going to go down Wooburg order, so white, blue, black, red, green, multicolor, which I didn't realize there were that many multicolor. There's like over 50 multicolor cards in the set, and then colorless / lands. So let us begin with white, alphabetically, down the line. Ajani's Pridemate. This is a card we've seen multiple times reprinted, mainly in core sets. In the last core set, it was actually pretty good, as you could do some life gain theme. Unfortunately, here in a regular set, I don't think it's going to be as good. But let's say for constructed sake, this actually has seen a little play, though I don't think it's anything particularly exciting. You know, there are some budget life gain decks and whatnot, and every once in a while you see it show up somewhere, but I'm not going to get it anywhere at more than a 2, I would say, which is probably even generous. And again, you know, turn 1 Healer Hawk, turn 2 Ajani's Pridemate, turn 3 whatever, but just not exciting enough, not really the constructed playable card that you're looking for. Again, it does have a home in some of these decks, but not ideal. These ratings are out of 5, sorry, if you are unaware. Out of 5. Ratings out of 5. In limited, however, it does get a little bit of a boost, I would say. For constructed, ratings normally have to be like 3+ to see a lot of play, but in limited rather, it doesn't require too much work, you know, to make this fine, especially since, you know, we have those. Well, yeah, you'll see them soon, those like charming strays. You can do some interesting cat decks there, but there are some more life gain synergies in this format than in, say, I'm not going to say more than constructed, but in limited, I think it's good enough to just take as a bear, you know, a 2/2 for 2 with random upside. So I'm going to call it a 2, maybe a 2.5 tops, but it's somewhere around there. So that's my rating for ye old Pridemate. As we go to the next one, Battlefield Promotion. Looks like a combat trick. White and 1. A lot of these cards, for the record, will be cards that I have not seen yet. You know, I did keep up with a lot of the preview and spoiler season, but for the most part, that was only with the rares and mythics, planeswalkers, etc. And even though the planeswalkers are now uncommon, a lot of the regular commons and uncommons I just don't even know about. So, Battlefield Promotion, white and 1 instant, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. That creature gains first strike until end of turn. You gain 2 life. All right, we already found another way to gain some life here, so maybe the Pridemate is going to go up a little more in value after I've done the full set review, but I gave it a base level of 2. Anyways, Battlefield Promotion, constructed viability. I mean, I didn't write down 0 on my pad, but so I'll just give it the bare minimum 0.5. This actually does a lot of things, but again, this is very clearly just not a constructed card, although the 1/1 is a counter and not just until end of turn. In limited, however, I think this is actually a pretty good trick. This is a pump effect that lasts. It's a continuous pump effect, right? It's a counter. Now, and you have to remember, there are proliferate effects in this format as well. So if you do give a 1/1 counter to one of your creatures and then you have some proliferate later on, well, you can boost them up further. Additionally, first strike, that is a nice little combat trick where that can let you take down creatures or multiple creatures even. And then again, the 2 life is not insignificant, but just again, another benefit. I think this is actually a pretty good limited combat trick. I'm going to give it a 2.5, and maybe that's even maybe too low. I could even see this being like a 3. But yeah, that's as good as you expect for a common combat trick. So not bad there on the Battlefield Promotion front. Bond of Discipline, 1 and 4 for a sorcery. Tap all creatures your opponents control. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Man, this type of effect is very, very powerful, but you need specific board positions to really make it work. I don't know how grindy this format's going to be. The fact that you get all of your creatures with lifelink is a huge deal for like swinging races. Now obviously for constructed this is like a 0. Again, I don't have a 0 listed, so we'll give it the bare bones 0.5. Would not play this in constructed, but limited, this could range anywhere from like, well, obviously a 0 to 0.5 if you have no creatures, but if this format ends up being grindy or something, it's a swingy effect, and I could see, you know, even giving it a 3. I don't, again, this is best case scenario. I don't think it's as good as our previous card, the Battlefield Promotion, but this has a very high upside of letting you get in for alpha or just swinging the race because of the lifelink. So I'm gonna give it a 3 for now, but again, it is highly variable, and so you'll just have to base it on your decks. Bulwark Giant, a white and 5 for a giant soldier. 3/6. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. Constructed, don't think so. This is, well, yeah, as you can tell, this is just not a constructed player at all. For limited, however, 5 life is a lot of life, and a 3/6 is a big old booty. You're not going to play like multiples of these normally, I would say, but it does, you know, it does do some decent work. I'm gonna give this a 2.5, and this is like, you think 2.5 is the bare average out of 5, right? The exact average out of 5, but it's you have to work real hard to get anything over a 3 in limited. So giving this a 2.5, I think, is exactly where it deserves to be. Again, you might run one of these in your decks. I don't think you're gonna run more than one in the main, but no, 5 life and a big booty is fine. Charmstray, this is the card I was talking about with the Ajani's Pridemate earlier. A white for a 1/1 cat, lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control named Charmstray. So in sealed, not so much. In constructed, well, you can't run a number of these, so again, this is kind of a dead card in constructed. But in limited, in draft especially, if you can pick up a lot of these, oh man, they could do some serious work. I think standalone as just a card, you know, it's pretty underwhelming, but with the more you get, of course, the limited power level is going to increase. So if you just jump in it early and you get, say, 8 Charmstrays, which is an absurd number in a draft even, but if you get like 8 Charmstrays, I mean, that's a thing. So I'm gonna give it like a 1.5, but of course, again, this is variable depending on how many you pick up. Well, maybe I'm not going fast enough for this set review. I'm gonna be here for like 7 hours. Defiance Strike. We've seen this one before as well. Was it first printed in like Mirage or Visions or something? Something like that. Anyways, 1 white instant, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, draw a card. So basically no constructed viability since there's no like heroic around anymore to really want this type of effect there. In limited, however, yeah, it's still not very good. I'm gonna give it like a 1.5. The nice thing is that it cycles, but you know, the difference between giving first strike in that other combat trick is very, very large. I'm just gonna give this a 1.5. Again, it cycles and it's cheap, so at least there's that going for it, but it's not a card you're like looking to take super early or anything like that. Sorry. Well, no, Feather doesn't have heroic. It doesn't say heroic anyways. Divine Arrow. White and 1 instant. Divine Arrow deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. I think Gideon's Reproach was like maybe played in constructed a small amount. I'm not gonna say it's a good card or anything like that, but it's a cheap removal spell. Maybe there's some you know, another Esper deck that wants this type of removal. I doubt it. You know, at best it's going to be a 1 for constructed. Yes, F's in the chat for the horsey. In limited, however, this removal is pretty strong. Just, you know, not even knowing what kind of creatures are in this format. Limited like this is generally worth it. Now, it is conditional, obviously, but the nice thing is it's not just like only attacking. It's not just only blocking. It's attacking or blocking. But again, it is a little bit prohibitive, but still a pretty solid card overall. This is gonna be like my first limited 3. I'm just gonna give it a 3 because if you're white, you're always gonna play this. You're gonna play multiples most likely. But there you go, Divine Arrow. Enforcer Griffin, 1 and 4 for a 3/4 flying. Okay. Honestly, for limited, these stats are fine. For constructed, obviously, I would hope you never run this card unless you are building on a budget. But baseline stats in limited, like 4 mana, 3/3 flyer is already pretty good. If you got a 5 mana, 4/4 flyer, that's like very, very high. Just as far as commons are concerned, so. As far as limit is concerned for the Enforcer Griffin, I think I'm going to give it like a 2.5, maybe a little bit less or more. I don't know if you're going to want to run multiple of these, say more than 2, but 3/4 flyer for 5, baseline, splashable. You think of the Shielded Aerosaur from Ixalan or whatever, and even though that card had dinosaur synergies, just that rate for a flyer in limited at common is good enough. So, not bad. You'll run it. Finale of Glory, 2 white X. Sorcery, create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. If X is 10 or more, also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. Alright, this is gonna be like our first constructed quality card. Normally, these type of effects, if they're not instant though, are not super good. You really want these at instant speed. Look at March of the Multitudes, for instance, or Secure the Wastes. Really, these need to be instants for constructed viability. I still think it's going to probably, find some home somewhere. I'm going to give this a 2.5 for now. Which means, I do think it's going to find a home somewhere. I don't think it's going to be in every single deck, ever. I think it might be in a few decks, but card quality is definitely there. For limited, however, this card is certainly a bomb. The only thing that's going to take it down a notch is the fact that you can't really splash it. This is like a 4, this is a 4.5. You're going to take this every single time. If you don't have a secondary color yet, you're going to try to find a way to do so. This card is pretty hard to beat if your opponent doesn't have some type of wrath effect. Even just at 4 mana, making 2 2/2s with vigilance is already Call the Cavalry or Gallant Cavalry or whatever. And then, it scales just with any more. It just becomes so much better and better than this. So, yeah, very good limited card. I don't know. It's somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. It's not a 5, but it's certainly up there as far as limited rankings are concerned. Gideon Blackblade, 2 white and 1. Legendary Planeswalker Gideon. As long as it's your turn, Gideon's a 4/4 human soldier with indestructible. That's still a Planeswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon during your turn. Uptick 1. Up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn. -6. Exile target non-land permanent. Well, Planeswalkers are always pretty sticky threats, and Gideons of all types have played in constructed. I don't know if I want to give Gideon a 3.5. I'm definitely going to give him at least a 3. I don't think he's super bomby or anything like that in constructed, although it's just a 4/4 for 3 on turn 3. I have no idea how, you rate this compared to, say, something like History of Benelia, as a 3-drop, and where does it stand? I think it's very good. Again, I think it's probably on the closer end of 3.5, but we'll have to see if this finds a home somewhere. Again, I think it's definitely going to, and the fact that it can kind of protect itself. You can give a creature vigilance, though he himself cannot really protect himself on your opponent's turn. So, no, it would not be able to attack the turn it came down. So I think this is good. It's going to definitely find a home in Constructed. But we'll just have to see how good Gideon Blackblade turns out to be. Alright, for Limited, however, and again, these type of cards are normally going to be quite bomby in Limited. I'm going to give it at least a 4. I don't actually think it's as good as the finale that we just saw. But the thing is, Gideon comes down so early, and if your opponent doesn't deal with it, it's hard to lose, right? It's an indestructible 4/4 on turn 3. He starts with 4 loyalty already, and again, there's no downside to upticking, right? You can always just attack with him and still use the loyalty. So this very, very powerful card. This is going to end a lot of games. Again, no, it cannot attack immediately. It's still considered a creature, so it's going to still have summoning sickness. No, the +1 says other target creature. Other target creature. That would be insane if you could give Gideon his own buff, but it says other, so. Gonna be hard to beat. Again, the only reason I'm not gonna really give it a 5 is because the mana requirements, you're going to be you're gonna have to play white for this to do anything. But yowza, that's many people are going to lose to this on turn 3. Let's just put it that way. Card is busto. All right, Gideon's Sacrifice. Wow, spoilers. A white instant. Choose a creature or planeswalker you control. All damage that would be dealt to this turn to you and permanents you control is dealt to the chosen permanent instead. Historically, these type of effects have not been very good in Constructed, so I'm just going to go off of that baseline and give it a very low score there. Maybe there's a home somewhere. I mean, it's cheap in an instant, but again, doubtful that it's going to make a home in Constructed. Limited, probably the same, honestly. I mean, I can see this being brought in, but I don't think it's ever going to be something that you actively want, you know? It's kind of bad. It's not like a Harm's Way type of effect. If you think of Harm's Way, that effect where you could, you know, redirect the damage and deal it to something of your opponent's or your opponent's face was good, but I don't think this is going to be the card you want for either Constructed or Limited. And I'm talking mainly about Standard, for the record, when I'm talking about Constructed here. The people saying, you know, like Modern and whatnot. Anyways, Gideon's Triumph. A white and 1. Target opponent sacrifices a creature that attacked or blocked this turn. If you control a Gideon Planeswalker, that player sacrifices 2 of those creatures instead. Again, another effect that I don't really think ever sees much play in Constructed. Although it does have more upside, I would say, than the reprint Gideon's Reproach. This might find a home, especially if there's some like white control deck that's also running Gideon, of course. But I'm gonna just give it a baseline of 1 for now. Limited, that's a little bit better. The fact that your opponent gets to choose which creature to sacrifice does, of course, make it a little bit worse. But the nice thing is, it just says that attacked or blocked this turn. So you could actually cast this at the end of your turn, or at the end of their turn, if you wanted. So, you know, you make your favorable blocks. Maybe you take some damage from a large creature, but then after the combat damage step has happened, you're able to clean it up. So, I mean, again, giving your opponent choices aren't great, but it is removal. I'm going to give it a 2. God Eternal Oketra, 2 white and 3 for a 3/6 double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. When God Eternal Oketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from top. All right, well, this card's kind of crazy. Will it find a home in Constructed? It's a little bit expensive, and you don't get an immediate effect. You don't get an immediate effect when you cast it. Constructed, no, I think this is definitely worse than Gideon. I'm going to give this a 2.5 for Constructed. I think it's also definitely worse than Finale. In fact, this might not even find a true home in Standard. But we go down to Limited, and wow, again, this card is absurd. The only reason I'm not going to give it a 5, splash ability. You're always going to take this card. You're always going to try to play this card. If the opponent doesn't immediately cast it, and you just have any creature to back it up, holy moly. Also, if they do kill it, you just get to draw it again later. Ay. So so it has to die and then put into exile from the back. So you have to like make them discard it. Is the only way to like truly get rid of it. This card is insane. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually put any 5s on my little sheet because I didn't think there was going to be any true 5s. But this is probably as close to a 5 as you can get in limited. So, yow, that card's absurd. Damn. Grateful Apparition, a white and 1/1 flyer. When it deals combat to a player or planeswalker, proliferate. Oh, so this is the was it called Thrumming Bird? What's that thing from the Mirrodin? Was it? Yeah, it was Thrumming Bird. Yeah, I got it right. This is just like a reprinted Thrumming Bird, color shifted. Constructed viability. I doubt we're going to see any Grateful Apparition Planeswalker decks. I mean, I kind of hope that we do, but I seriously doubt that's going to be a thing. Limited? This is variable. A 1/1 flyer for 2 is not very good in limited, but that being said, there are enough ways to put counters on things and enough planeswalkers in the format. You know, every pack is going to have a planeswalker. I think this is just absolutely fine. You're almost certainly going to be running this in your white decks. Yeah, I'm going to give this a 2.5 in limited. It's evasive, proliferates your planeswalkers, which is very nice, especially for like the uncommon walkers where, you know, they only have downtick abilities, and so being able to proliferate on them again once is often going to buy you another activation. So, not bad, not bad. And yeah, as somebody noted in chat, if you have the, I don't remember what that combat trick we talked about, but the battle-wise, whatever, I don't know, put a 1/1 counter on a creature. Yeah, card does work. This card can do some serious work. Don't overlook it in limited. Ignite the Beacon, 1 and 4, white and 4, instant. Search your library for up to 2 planeswalker cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. This does feel like a card that could get some limited play, although I don't really foresee it doing all that much. It definitely has more constructed vibes to it than limited, but we'll have to see. Again, 5 is a little bit expensive. It is instant speed. It is cute, but I'm going to just give it a 2 for now. Limited, however, this could change. I think most decks in this format are going to have a planeswalker of some variety. The question is, how many are you going to have? Remember, every pack has at least one planeswalker. It just depends if, I guess, if you fall into the right colors and if you're fortunate enough to get enough planeswalkers on color. So I think this could honestly be like a 3, maybe even a 3.5. The fact that you get to draw 2 planeswalkers, or you can draw up to 2 planeswalkers, means that, you know, it has some really high upside. Obviously, there are times where you're not going to run it. Say you have like 1 walker in your deck, you're not going to run it at all. But being able to tutor up probably 2 of your best cards is not terrible. This is a rare though, so you're not going to see it that often in limited, but I can see this doing some real work. So again, a variable rating, but the potential is certainly there. Ironclad Krovod, white and 3 for a 2/5. All right, bare minimum constructed rating, and that's like a 1.5 in limited. It's got a big booty. It's the ancient crab or whatever. You'll play it sometimes. You're never thrilled with it, but sometimes it's a curve filler. Sometimes your opponent's, you know, playing an aggro deck. So not much to say there. Law-Rune Enforcer, white for a 1/2 human soldier. Tap 1 and tap it. Tap target creature with converted mana cost 2 or greater. All right, again, bare bones constructed rating, but this is a decent limited card for sure. The only problem is it doesn't convert cat mana, so it doesn't tap any zombies, the amass tokens, but this is anywhere between like a 3 and a 3.5, I would say. You know, it comes down early, the activation is cheap. There are going to be certainly targets in your opponent's deck, even if they are running an Amass deck. I don't know if I would splash it a lot of the time, but you're always going to play it in your white decks. You're always going to look out for them. So I think it's a 3 or a 3.5. So not bad. Not bad. You can do much worse for a 1-drop. Loxodon Sergeant. White and 3 for a 3/3 Vigilance. Fine stats. When it enters the battlefield, other creatures you control gain Vigilance until end of turn. Okay, well, that is terrible for Constructed and pretty lackluster in Limited overall. It's a 2. It's maybe a 2 point... No, it's a 2. I'm going to give it a straight up 2. You don't mind having these effects, though. Sometimes they can really turn the tide of battle if you're in a racing situation, but can't really see myself wanting more than like one of these at any given time. So, Loxodon Sergeant, 3/3 Vigilance for 4. Decent, you know, upside effect in Limited, but nothing too special. Makeshift Battalion, a white and 2 for a 3/2. Whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, put a 1/1 counter on it. Okay, so again, Constructed, not going to find a home. Limited, 3 mana, 3/2 is like fine stats already. What's that? Was it Raid? Is Raid called? I think Raid was when you attack with 3 creatures. Like, so it has like Raid. Raid, put a 1/1 counter on it. And, you know, if this thing starts... Oh, it was a Battalion. Sorry, you're right, it was Battalion. Raid was the damage. Dang it. Makes sense that a card named Battalion would have the ability Battalion. Anyways, this could certainly get out of control. Also, Proliferate is in the format. Ooh, so you can imagine attacking with that Grateful Apparition, the Battalion, and 1 other creature. Immediately the Battalion triggers. You know, it happens when you declare 3 as an attacker, and then the like Apparition puts an extra Proliferate counter on it. So not a terrible 3-drop for a common, certainly. Nothing exciting. Martyr for the cause, white and 1 for a 2/2. When it dies, Proliferate. Again, can't really see this making any waves in Constructed. In Limited, I think it's probably still just a 2. I'm not going to give it a 2.5. It's a bear. It has small upside. It's nothing special. I'm not going to run like 5 of these because I have 2 Planeswalkers in my deck. So you'll play it. It's a curve filler. It can sometimes do some work, but it's, again, nothing special. Parhelion II. White 6. Legendary artifact vehicle. Flying, first strike, vigilance. Whenever it attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. Crew 4. Way too expensive for Constructed. The crew cost is also way too high. For Limited, though, if this gets to attack once, you almost certainly just win, because not only are you attacking for 13 in the air vigilance, but you're also getting 2 creatures, 2 4/4 defenders on the back end. So I'm going to give this a 4, honestly. In Limited, 8 mana is a lot of mana. The crew is also very, very, very high. Crew 4 is about as expensive as you can expect for a crew card. The nice thing is it does technically crew itself after the first activation, but I'm not going to give it higher than a 4. I think that's asking too much. Again, it's 8 mana. It has a crew 4. And yeah, if you attack with it, you're probably going to win the game, but can't really see it going higher than that, honestly. Certainly not higher than, you know, Gideon or Oketra or the Finale. So we'll leave it at that for now. Pouncing Lynx, white and 1 for a 2/1. As long as it's your turn, Pouncing Lynx has first strike. So again, no Constructed play here. And this is like a 2. I'm not going to rate it higher than that other 2/2 that proliferates when it dies. This is a nice aggressive card. It's a reprint of that 2/1 from Guilds. I don't remember the name now, but not exciting. You'll play it in your aggro decks. Yada yada yada. Thank you, Fresh Faced Recruit. White and 2, Prison Realm. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls until Prison Realm leaves the battlefield. When it enters, scry 1. All right, this is at least a 3 in constructed. We're certainly going to see it in some capacity, whether it's eating a creature or a planeswalker. It's a solid effect, and it has the scry, you know, so you're obviously getting something good when it enters the battlefield. So in constructed, I'm going to give it for a 3, maybe a 3.5. Not bad. Limited, this is just straight up great removal. Maybe this is like a 4 removal. I'm not sure how much enchantment removal is like main deckable in this format, but I think it's at least a 3.5 and maybe even a 4. Normally enchantments are harder to deal with, and this being able to hit the planeswalkers, which are so prevalent, is just super good. And again, with the scry, so 3.5, maybe even a 4 in limited. Would not be surprised if 4 is more accurate. This is a nice one. Rally of Wings, white and 1, instant. Untap all creatures you control. Creatures you control with flying get +2/+2 until end of turn. Again, unless there's some weird flying men deck that I'm not thinking about, I don't see this playing any constructed. Limited. People are gonna play this, and it's gonna be good sometimes. I just don't think it's gonna be good often enough to warrant trying to either build around it or, yeah, I just can't really see this being a thing. It's nice, it's cheap to untap all your creatures, but usually that type of effect isn't good enough to play in limited. And then how many flyers are you actually gonna get? I'm gonna give this a pretty low rating here. I don't think this is going to be very good. I'm gonna want to try to do it at some point, but all right. Ravnica at War, white and 3. Exile all multicolored permanents. So this is like a sideboard constructed card of some variety. You know, this is probably just a baseline super, super low, but versus the right deck, it could be as good as like a 3. So sideboard constructed card, which means I'm just going to give it a 2, maybe a 2.5. It is not something you're going to main deck, but it's something that you're going to bring in from the board. Limited, on the other hand, exile all multicolored permanents. I know there are a lot of multicolored permanents in the format. I don't know how good this is going to be, though. I haven't looked at the entire set, so just baseline, I'm going to give it a 1.5. It seems not very good, but I'm sure, again, there will be points where you want to play it. Yeah, again, it's probably just more sideboard card as well for limited. Maybe it's just it's like a 2 down the line. So you just get sideboard cards with, or yeah, you sideboard it in both times in constructed and in limited. Rising Populace, a white and 2 for a 2/2 human. Whenever another creature or planeswalker you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Rising Populace. We've seen this effect or this type of card before. No limited play, or sorry, no constructed play to it. In limited though, I don't think it's honestly that bad. I might not give it more than a 2 or a 2.5 tops. 2.5 seems like a stretch even. I'm gonna give it a 2. 3 mana 2/2 is whatever. Obviously this can grow out of control, and there is proliferate in the set, and maybe because there's also proliferate, so maybe I just give it a 2.5. But yeah, I don't think this is, like, if you just take nothing but Rising Populace in your drafts, is that really going to be all that good? Probably not. You could probably run 1 or 2 and not be too upset about it, but little work needs to be done to get these to where I want it to be. So it's playable. I'm probably not going to run like multiples or anything like that, but it ain't the worst. Single combat, white 3, sorcery. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. Each player... this is interesting. I'm gonna... Well... Yeah, I'm gonna give this a constructed 3. It's kind of like a weird Wrath, where your opponent also has to like sack their planeswalkers if they have, or they have to choose between. And so I imagine in a deck where you're running this, you're probably not running many creatures, but you're probably running planeswalkers. This is weird. It's true. It's true. You don't get to cast anything on that same turn. You also don't get to cast anything until, not the next turn, but the turn after. But they also don't get to cast anything on their next turn. So in like a control deck, you're probably not going to be casting, you know, a creature anyways. And I don't think this is actually all that bad. Like if you're, just imagine if this was in Esper control right now. I don't think that would be terrible. Right? I think I'm gonna give it a 3 for constructed. I think it might find a home. It is expensive though, but it's powerful enough. Limited on the other hand, it's a little bit of a stretch. You get to keep your best creature or planeswalker, but they also get to do the same, and then they get to rebuild first. Man, I think it's playable. I don't think it's very good. Or limited. Maybe a 2, maybe a 2.5, but that's what I'm going with. I think it's going to find somewhere in constructed to be played. I don't think it's going to be all that great in limited, because whereas in constructed you can take advantage, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a 3. So it's true. In limited, you get to keep your best thing, and they get to keep their best thing. But I don't know. I think it really depends. I'm gonna leave it at here. 3 for constructed, 2 for limited. That's my final answer. Prove me wrong. Sunblade Angel, white and 5, 3/3 flying, first strike, vigilant. This is so many words on it. This is so many words on it. I'm giving this a, no, 4 is a little bit too. I'm giving this a 3.5. This card is good. This card is good. It's very splashable. I would splash for this. The 3/3 flying already, you know, makes it hard to deal with because it's evasive. First strike, vigilance, lifelink. This card is potent. If they don't kill it, you're gonna win the game with it. Now again, I don't know too much about all of the removal and whatnot in the format, so maybe I'm overvaluing this. Maybe this just dies 500 different ways, but this type of card historically has been a really good finisher in a lot of limited decks, so we'll give it a 3.5. That card slaps. That card definitely slaps. Teo the Shieldmage. There's that 3/4 flyer for 5 we saw earlier, the white one as well. Teo the Shieldmage, white and 2, legendary planeswalker. You have hexproof. Starts with 5 loyalty. -2, create a 0/3 white wall creature token with Defender. I don't think this is unplayable in Constructed. This is going to be like a sideboard card you bring in versus the red decks or whatever. Again, it has a home. It's going to be a sideboard. I don't think you would want to run this in your main. Or discard, sure. Anything, a deck that targets you heavily anyways, or an aggressive deck. Limited. Sorry, Teo. You're not very good. I mean, planeswalkers are annoying, and we've seen a decent number of ways to proliferate in white already, but this just does not seem good to me. Sorry, Teo. I'm going to give you a 1.5. You're a planeswalker. I'm probably going to play you at some point, but you're not doing much for me. Sorry, bro. Teo's Lightshield, however, white and 2, 0/3. Enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on, target creature you control. So you can target itself, make it a 3-mana 1/4. Proliferate is in the set. This obviously is constructed garbage, but it's playable. It's playable and limited for sure. Not gonna run like a large amount of these unless I have a ton of proliferate, but this, it's not awful. It's not awful. We'll leave it at that. It's a 2. Tomic, Distinguished Advocist. White, 2/3 flyer. All right, here we go. We got some words on him. Lands on the battlefield and land cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Lands on the battlefield and land cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. I don't really see that being useful in standard. Your opponents can't play land cards from graveyards. Yeah, this is certainly not a standard card, so this is older format card. I mean, it's gonna find a home somewhere. It's a 2/3 flyer for 2, you know, death and taxes, or some. It's gonna be somewhere. It's gonna find some home. I think this is certainly constructed playable. In limited, you know what? It's a 2/3 flyer for 2, which is a good rate. The fact that it's a white cost makes it a little bit prohibitive, obviously, but you're gonna play this in any white deck. You're gonna play this in any white deck, so give it a 3 in limited. Above average for sure. Topple the Statue, white and 2, instant, tap target permanent. If it's an artifact, destroy it and draw a card. Huh. Maybe if there's some artifact... I don't know. This is like a sideboard constructed card at best, obviously. In limited, tap target permanent. If it's an artifact, destroy it, draw a card. I haven't taken a look at the artifacts. I don't really know how many... 1 are in the format, and 2 are, if any of them are good. And I don't think that the Twitch effect, it's called Twitch, right? Yeah, I don't think the Twitch effect is all that good, so I'm gonna give it a 1.5. This is probably just sideboard. Probably just a sideboard card if you see something. Twiddle. No, I think, isn't Twitch a card too? I'm pretty sure Twitch is also a card. Trusted Pegasus, again, rest in peace. White and 2 for a 2/2 flyer. Whenever it attacks, target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. So no constructive viability. We've seen this card printed tons of times in different iterations. You know, we've had the blue flyers that give flying. We've had the white flyers that give flying. The Pegasus Courser, I think, is the most recent. So it's a good card. Nice and aggressive for limited sake. I don't think I can give it higher than a 3, but this is a card you will always run in your white decks, and you will probably run multiple. Not bad. The Wanderer, white and 3. Legendary Planeswalker. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents you control. Exile target creature with power 4 or greater. Again, this is a sideboard constructed card at best. Oh my god, the washer is going ham. For limited, exile target creature with power 4 or greater. You're probably just going to run this in your deck. You're not going to run multiple, but it is a fine card. You know, it's usually going to kill 2 of your opponent's better creatures, or rather exile 2 of your opponent's better creatures. Maybe this is closer to a 2, but somewhere between 2 and 2.5 seems about right for the Wanderer, because it's also going to gain you life, right? They're going to be hard pressed to just run out their large creatures into this when you can immediately get value. So, not bad. Not bad for limited. Wanderer Strike, white and 4, exile target creature, then proliferate. All right, no constructed viability, but this is a good removal spell. This might be like a 3, maybe 3.5 is a little bit high, because it is slow and it's a sorcery, but it's certainly at least a 3. It's certainly at least a 3. What's the best comparison I can do this to? Iona's Judgment. I think this is a card, if you remember that. Similar to Iona's Judgment with random proliferate upside. Somewhere between a 3 and a 3.5. It's not bad. Splashable. I don't know if you're gonna run too many of these. Like, you're probably running... You're certainly running 1. You're almost certainly running 2. 3 maybe a little bit much, but 3 or 3.5 seems right for Wanderer Strike. Or Screecher, white and 1 for a 1/3 flyer. You can pay 5 and a white, tap it. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a decent card. It's perfectly average. A 1/3 flyer for 3 is nothing to write home about. But, you know, random upside late game is not terrible. It's a little bit expensive, and it's only +1/+1/+1. Oh, sorry, 1/3 for 2. That's what I meant. I did mean 2 mana. But yeah, not super exciting, but it does have some nice combat trickiness going on with it. So yeah, 2.5. Ajani's. Oh, hey, and we're done with white. Yay!